Before we dive into today's episode, I want to tell you about a free 3-act worksheet to help you structure your story. Whether you're a plotter or a pantser, a novelist, or short fiction writer, this 3-act worksheet will help you navigate your material and even begin each new story with a better plan. Download yours at nancypanuccio.com/act. Stop getting stuck in the middle of your draft. Go grab this free worksheet, nancypanuccio.com/act. So ask yourself, does this backstory change something about the character, the stakes, or the story itself? Or does it give the reader a different take on the character? Does it change our perception of him or her? Writer Unleashed is for you, a writer who has a story you want to bring onto the page and into the hearts and minds of readers. I'm Nancy Panuccio, writer, editor, and book coach. Each week, we'll explore techniques, mindsets, and inspiration for writing stories readers can't put down. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now, let's begin. Backstory gets a bad rap. Writers are warned to cut it, sprinkle it, avoid it altogether sometimes. But here's the real truth. Backstory is not the problem. It's the wrong backstory delivered the wrong way and at the wrong time. That is the problem with backstory. When you use backstory with intention, it doesn't bog your story down. It deepens it. It reveals what shaped your character, what's driving them now, and why the stakes matter so much. Because every protagonist walks onto the page with what I call significant history. There's a memory that is impacting the story, the experiences that shaped what your character wants at the start of the story, how they come into the story with a particular unrest or instability. And it's also calling forth the internal mess, the conflicting desires, the fears, and deeply embedded beliefs that complicate their journey. That's the backstory that you need to pay attention to. The key is not to give readers all of that history up front, but to weave it in so it serves the moment. So today, I'll show you 3 ways to use backstory effectively so it fuels your story instead of stalling or derailing it. So let's get right to it. Number 1, you want to weave backstory through triggers in the present. The best backstory moments don't drop in randomly. They're triggered by what's happening in the now of the story. That might be a smell, a particular location, or a situation. All of these can crack open the door to memory. When this happens, the past feels alive because it's emotionally tied to the present. You want to start with the current scene, anchor us there first. Let something in that scene trigger the memory from the past. Keep the backstory brief and emotionally charged, then return to the now. There should be a feeling of a dialogue between the past and the present. So they're posing different questions and answering different questions. So there's a dialogue happening between the now and the past. So for example, in The Secret Life of Bees, Lily's memories of her mother's death surface in fragments, each tied to a moment of fear or longing. We care about those memories because they're directly connected to what she's experiencing now. So ask yourself, what in this scene could naturally trigger my character's memory? Okay, tip number 2. You want to deliver backstory in small emotional bursts. Readers don't want the info dump. You don't want to stall the story with too much backstory. I see this a lot where it's pages and pages of backstory. We just want glimpses. We want these emotional bursts that add texture without slowing the pace. A single image, a remembered line of dialogue, a quick sensory detail. These flashes are powerful because they don't just tell us what happened, they make us feel it. You want to reveal backstory in short, vivid snippets instead of long explanations. You want to focus on emotion and sensory detail. We don't want just information. And you want to use these bursts when tension is high, so they add to the moment rather than distract. So it should feel like a seamless time loop between the present and the past. For example, Katniss's memories of Prim in the Hunger Games are short, but unforgettable. They're woven through moments of fear and sacrifice, constantly reminding us what's at stake. So ask yourself, can I express this piece of history in one vivid moment instead of a whole scene? That's the key. Moments. Okay, on to tip number 3. Frame backstory as revelation, not information. Here's where backstory can truly elevate your story. Instead of using it to explain to the reader, use it to reveal your character. When a piece of the past comes to light that changes how we see the character or how they see themselves, it's no longer filler, it's a turning point. So how do you do this? Well, you want to save the most impactful backstory for when it will land hardest. Let the revelation reframe the journey or deepen the conflict. Make sure it sparks a new choice or shifts the character's path. For example, in A Man Called Ove, the full depth of Ove's love and loss isn't revealed until later. When it finally is, it transforms our understanding of him and propels his arc forward. So ask yourself, does this backstory change something about the character, the stakes, or the story itself? Or does it give the reader a different take on the character? Does it change our perception of him or her? And here's a bonus craft tip. You want to keep time jumps clear. Even when you're using backstory well, clarity matters. Readers should never have to stop and wonder, where am I in time? So here are a few ways to keep your readers anchored. Start the flashback with a clear time cue. When he was 12, or he hadn't seen her since high school. So you want to use past perfect, had, briefly to signal the shift and then move back into simple past. Use line breaks or scene breaks to separate the past from the present and always tie it back to the now at the end of the memory. So we are launched into the backstory from something happening in the present, and then something from the memory launches us back into the present. So there's a dialogue. They're speaking to one another. Some novels handle flashbacks beautifully by giving them their own chapters. So sometimes if it's a long piece of backstory, then you want to isolate it in its own chapter. I would still keep it short, but if it's relevant, if it's significant history, another way to handle it without interrupting the forward-moving action is to isolate it in its own chapter. So to wrap up, backstory is not something you need to avoid at all costs. It all depends on the story. So this week, take a scene from your draft where you've used backstory and ask yourself, does it rise naturally from the present moment? Is it brief and emotionally charged? And does it reveal something that changes the story or changes our perception of the character? If yes, keep it. If not, consider cutting it or save it for when it will land harder. So 1, weave backstory through triggers in the present. 2, deliver backstory in small emotional bursts. And 3, frame backstory as revelation, not information. And my bonus tip, keep time jumps clear. When you weave backstory through triggers, deliver it in bursts, and frame it as revelation, you're not stopping the story to explain the past. You're letting the past fuel the present. So there you have it. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If you know any writers who need some support in their writing, please share this episode or the Writer Unleashed podcast in general. And if you love what you're listening to, subscribe on your favorite listening platform. And if you're listening on Apple, please leave me a review. Reading how this podcast impacts your writing truly lights me up and helps me create topics for the show. Till next time, keep writing, and I'll talk to you soon.